Hello and welcome back to the One Take Show podcast. My name is Kaustubh. In this episode, we are in conversation with Mr. Pitamber Yadav. Mr. Yadav is a faculty graduate scholar from NUS Law. He has been a guiding light for negotiation and mediation, especially for me. He's been a part of some of the most important international negotiation mediation competitions. He's also been a part of Pact. In this episode, we talk about his experience in law school. We also talk about what exactly is negotiation mediation, how to ace negotiation mediation competitions, how to play the role of a negotiator or a mediator, and why negotiation mediation is important for law students. If you like this episode, make sure you like, share and subscribe to the channel. If you have any suggestions or feedbacks, write them down in the comment section or reach out to me. I would love it either way. Hence, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's jump right in. So welcome to the One Take Show podcast. I am so excited to have this conversation with you, especially to take this conversation to all the viewers, because I can speak for myself as well as for Shashwat. We've always seen you as a guiding light with respect to every negotiation mediation competition that we have done. We've obviously benefited a lot from your guidance, and I think this conversation will help a lot of law students. So thank you so much for taking time out and sitting down with me for this conversation.
No, thank you so much, Kaustubh, and it's been a pleasure to be here. And of course, I've seen both you and Shashwat grow into this field, so it's even more exciting for me to be here.
Absolutely, sir. And I think before we get into the theme of this conversation, obviously we talk about negotiation, mediation as a competition and the various strategies that can be involved. I think a little bit about yourself, as a lot of law students can really draw inspiration from your personal experience. So could you please tell me a little bit about your experience in law school, your experience with law as a subject, and your experience in NUS?
Right. So I did my 5-year law from Jindal Global Law School. And I think throughout law school, I had an opportunity to try different fields of law vis-a-vis competitions. But I think in the latter part of my degree, bachelor's degree, I was able to focus on mediation and negotiation. And in a country like India, it's these competitions are actually the outlet for students to learn and to understand what the field is all about. So my journey started from such competitions, and looking back, I think I'm talking about 4 to 5 years ago. There were not many competitions in the country regarding mediation and negotiation, but now if you see, we have, I think, almost every law school in the country focuses on mediation and negotiation, and some of them also have their own national competitions. So now the opportunity is there for everybody to at least go for these competitions at least once during their law school in India. And especially for me per se, these competitions gave me helped me identify the field of law that I wish to pursue my career in, and also allowed me to understand the importance of effective and efficient communication. And it was only, I think, during these the latter years of my bachelor's degree that I was able to understand and make a decision that I wanted to pursue a degree, a master's degree in the field of dispute resolution. And my first choice during that phase was, of course, NUS, because of the variety of factors that come up to an understanding where you realize that you are in a place where you're talking about the dispute resolution process and different facets involved throughout the day. So for a university like NUS to have a specialized course on dispute resolution, I was able to make the best use out of it, because not only did it give me an outlet in the field of arbitration, but it also provided me thorough grounding uh, in the field of mediation and negotiation. And
Right.
I think there it was, I think at NUS I was able to build up upon my experience as a law school graduate in India.
Mm-hmm.
And there it was, after interacting with the professors over there, I was able to say that, you know enhance my understanding of this field, because there are so many different approaches coming up, especially with regards to mediation and negotiation. And with professors like Professor Joel Lee, Marcus Lim, Professor Lucy Reed, we see a lot of these scholars being at NUS provides you with an opportunity to learn from their experience, and help understand what are these different approaches that are available for a field like mediation or negotiation.
Right, right. And we talk about this field that you mentioned, negotiation and mediation. And obviously, today, as you mentioned, there are a lot of law schools that are now promoting this exercise, perhaps in the form of the competitions, or even law students find these opportunities across the country in various law schools. So, before we get into how exactly this competition is to be interpreted by the competitors, I would like to ask you, what is your conceptual understanding of what negotiation and mediation really is, and what is it that you interpret from these words, especially with respect to the competitions that we get in?
Right. So, see, for me, whenever anyone asks about mediation, I just simply say that it's a third party facilitated negotiation, because I see mediator to be a facilitator, right? I see a mediator to be, able to provide a platform where two parties who have not been able to communicate clearly can now, with the help of the mediator, do so. So in that situation, it becomes very important for the mediator to play a role where he can create an environment where both the parties feel comfortable, and both the parties are able to express themselves, express what they feel, and use this platform for able to communicate effectively and have a resolution in place. So for me, I see mediator to be a facilitator of communication, where he is providing that, has a skill set in place where he is able to enhance the ability of parties to communicate through his actions, through his demeanor, body language, and all these different facets. And similarly, for negotiation, I feel that it's an exchange of ideas, exchange of thoughts, where two parties come together to understand how they can benefit by maybe in a form of a contract, or maybe in form of a deal making situation, where two parties are able to just effectively communicate and help each other and understand what the situation is like. So this is my basic understanding of these two
Right.
processes.
So, and as you mentioned, like this entire exercise, in a sense, is about facilitating the conversation, with, in a sense, is what is something that is required of and perhaps expected of law students. And when we talk about the competitions in particular, they offer us the opportunity to get into the role of a negotiator, get into the role of a mediator, and perhaps exercise this entire objective of growing with the competition. So when we talk about these competitions per se, and I would like to go through these roles one by one, perhaps picking up on negotiator first and then move on to the mediators. What do you think is the role of a negotiator in a competition, and what all are the aspects that every perhaps a negotiator should keep in mind before they approach these competitions?
See, whenever I coach a team for a competition like negotiation, a particular focused negotiation competition, or a deal making competition, in a situation where there are two parties coming together and effectively negotiating, I think it all starts from the fact that, how are you able to look at a particular fact situation. And this is where I'm able to understand and realize that these conversations that take place prior to the negotiation competition, where two parties are preparing, where let's say if if it's in a negotiation competition where you have a council and you have a party in play. So this, the preparation that takes place, the strategizing that takes place in order to understand and enhance a party's interest, I think that is a situation which is the most important in a competition, because I think that's the time when you are able to understand and put yourself in a situation where you make it believe that it's actually happening in reality. Like, it's not a hypothetical situation, it's something happening in real. And I think that is where the real part of the negotiation starts, because what we overlook sometimes in these competitions is that a lot of preparation has to go in a real time negotiation, right? There are different combinations that we have to think of, there are different solutions that we have to think of, and all these things take time. And that is where I think the learning takes place. That is where your conceptual understanding of your party's interest takes place. Because if you are not able to prioritize or understand what your party's end goal is, I particularly like to call it what your party's end game is. In that situation, if you're not able to understand that part, I think that can jeopardize your performance in the round. And that is where I think a lot of students should focus, so as to ensure that they are able to, at the end of the day, at the end of the negotiation session, they walk off believing that they have enhanced their party's interest. So that is where the real amount of effort would take place from the participants perspective. Because if that is ready, if you are ready in terms of your options, if you are ready in terms of what solutions you have in your mind, and you are able to communicate effectively, I think that will solve, I think, 50% of the whole round, because that is where the base lies. And if you prepare a base in the preparation time, you can just build up upon it, right? Like, I think I when I had an opportunity to assess you and Shashwat, I think that time also, I remember I told you guys to understand that when you look at a confidential information in a negotiation round, or when you look at your party's general information, you have to read it from a perspective. When you are negotiating, you have to read it from a perspective to understand what might be the concerns for your party, what might be pressing concerns for your party, and how those concerns can be addressed. So in a negotiation where you are on your own as a negotiator, where you have to understand that there's not going to be any third party facilitator like a mediator. There's not going to be anyone like that, but it's just you and your uh, counterpart. So in that situation, there is a lot of responsibility you have, because any wrong move or anything that you say which might attract a negative response from the other side is going to derail your preparation, and at the same time the momentum that you are bringing into the session. So I think that is an essential characteristic that you need to focus on when you are preparing for a negotiation competition.
Right, absolutely. And a lot of things go into this preparation. If I may be so specific to ask you with respect to the opening statement for the negotiators, or perhaps the proposals, the counter proposals, or dealing with difficult opponents who perhaps are dominating or are not participative enough. All of these situations keep arising with different rounds, the different kind of mediators that we run across. So, from the perspective of a negotiator, what all strategies do you think we should employ with respect to these aspects of the round?
I think for the opening statement per se, you have to understand that I particularly and believe that opening statement is a very important part of the whole round, because I think you can gather so much momentum in your opening statement, and that is the part where you can be creative. You have to be focused on highlighting what you really want, and at the same time you also are responsible for highlighting where you are coming from. So it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag where you have different objectives to achieve. But if you get that right, if you get your opening statement right, so you get that momentum into the round. So that is the time where you'll be able to focus clearly on different parts of the negotiation, because in your opening statement, if you essentially have a very good opening statement, then you would have clearly conveyed to your counterpart as to what exactly you are looking for, what exactly are your goals to achieve, and how you want to go about it. So that is with regards to the opening statement. But when you have all these counter proposals, or when you are making an offer, or when you're making a proposal, I think it's always good practice to have some sort of a justification attached with your proposal, because sometimes when you're making a proposal, there's of course going to be a counter question, or a response from your counterpart that, why this offer, why this proposal. So in that situation, always have a reasoning attached to your response, and that will serve you very well in terms of competitions,
Mhm.
because any response which is not substantiated enough would have a, I feel that it has the full potential of derailing the conversation.
Right, sir. And with respect to the opponents that we face, regarding certain opponents being rather dominant or certain being non-participative, in that case, how should a negotiator plan?
Uh, See, there are so many different approaches when it comes to negotiating, and these different approaches might have different results, because we are never sure that which approach is the most beneficial. But what we can be certain of is to understand the environment in which we are negotiating, right? And that situation can be understood. Like, I'll just give you an example that I did a Warsaw negotiation round, and I think one of the uh, rounds was on hostage negotiation. And that situation where, in a negotiation, in a hostage negotiation, anything that you say might trigger the of your counterpart into doing something which you have no control of. So you have a added responsibility to act in such a situation. So you know exactly what environment you are dealing in, and your approach, adapts to that environment. Similarly, if you are in a negotiation uh, environment where you are essentially looking for a deal making negotiation, where you are entering into an agreement with somebody, or you are in a situation where you are negotiating to pacify a particular situation and to make things easy for both sides. In that situation, your approach changes. But when you have these aggressive counterparts, where you have these parties who have an aggressive approach, I think the best thing you can do to deal with these situations is to uh, try to pacify their concerns, try to understand what is bothering them the most, that they have adopted this aggressive strategy. And that again attaches to an element of a negotiation where you are able to calm the situation, right? In a mediation, you have a mediator who's watching what's happening in the round, what's happening in the situation. So he or she can identify, okay, one party is getting a little aggressive, so he or she can act accordingly, and he can help you out in the situation. But in a negotiation, you don't have somebody like that. You don't
Right.
have someone who's overlooking your round or overlooking your conversation. No, it's just you and your counterpart. So if the other party is being aggressive, uh, what you can do essentially is to try and listen to them, that try and give them space to talk. Maybe they are being aggressive because they have felt that they are not being heard properly. So maybe you can take a step back at that point of time,
Mhm.
and really let them talk,
Right,
and let
right.
them say what they wanted to say, because sometimes these negotiation rounds are an outlet to say what people have not been able to say, right? So if anyone's coming with an aggressive approach, you can give them an opportunity to speak, try to understand what they wanted to say, and once you heard them, then you start the process of rebuilding an environment where they are a little more calmer than what when they came into the round, and slowly and steadily build up a sort of a rapport with them where you are communicating effectively. And if you can build that trust, if you can build that rapport, I think that can help you help both the parties in ending a negotiation session maybe on a good note, maybe on a note better than what maybe in a situation or circumstance which was better as when it started. So I think these some of these basic tips can help. Of course, I'm not the conclusive authority on this aspect of how to deal with the aggressive counterpart, but I personally felt like the strategies which I've told you right now can have worked for me, and yeah, it can help the participants as well.
Right, right, absolutely. And you've obviously mentioned there are obviously the kind of negotiation rounds where there is an involvement of mediators, and those mediated rounds are the ones where the mediators or the participants who are participating as mediators have to go through a rather different set of preparation. Because I have personally always negotiated, but what I have witnessed is the judges are more than often quite harsh on the mediators, quite very specifically so. But the idea here is that when someone is participating to be a mediator, what are the basic strategies or things that they should keep in mind? Perhaps something they should look out for while they're trying to perform as a mediator.
Right, right. No, I have I have seen you negotiate, and I have not seen you mediate. So I can, I can have, I can, comment on you and Shashwat negotiating. But as a mediator, it's essential to understand that it's a great responsibility to be a mediator, because you have the trust of two parties essentially, and that trust is something that you carry into a mediation, right? So it's a very fine line that you are walking on.
Right.
And essentially, when you are doing a mediation round as a mediator, you need to ensure that you have a environment in place where both parties who have not been communicating properly can communicate properly. I think that's my way of looking at mediation, right? When I enter into a mediation, or when I mediate, I feel that I can contribute in so many different ways in creating an effective environment for communication. And it has everything to do with my body language. It has everything to do with the way I talk, and how I can make parties feel comfortable. So again, you spoke about the impact of opening statement, right, when it comes to the negotiation. Similarly, mediation, for a mediator, opening statement is a great tool, right? I say it's a tool because it's something in the bag of a mediator where he or she can use a effective opening statement to actually calm down the parties, right? Sometimes there are so many questions regarding mediation. Sometimes there are so many doubts regarding what the process is all about. Sometimes there are concerns regarding the structure of the mediation session. So all these things can be addressed in one go if you have that good opening statement in front of you. So if you are a participant, if you are uh, someone who's really interested in being a mediator, then I think the first thing you need to work on is how are you going to plan your opening statement? What are you going to say in your opening statement? So these things can effectively contribute in understanding of the parties. If parties can have that impression in the opening statement that mediator is the person I can trust to help me in this process, then I think you have done 50% of your job, right? The next 50% would start from the agenda making session, where you will align all the concerns that have been put forward on the table, align them for the parties, help the parties understand and decide what they want to do, and then let them have a great communication. So that's how a process all starts. Because I remember, I think there have been so many stories about what innovative things people do on the circuit, mediation circuit, with regards to their opening statements. Someone, I personally like the orange example. You must have heard the orange story. I like that. I like, I have a certain set of these stories lined up. Someone played a song, like I know one of my colleagues, Jonathan. He played the I think, a Beatles song in his opening statement, and just to get it across to the parties that that there is so much that they can achieve by having an active approach in the mediation session, where both parties can benefit, or as we say in terminology, that increase the pie by working together. So there are these so many different people. Like, I have seen so many innovative opening statements coming across, so many different ways in which participants have been able to make parties feel comfortable. So there is no clear cut solution that, okay, this is how your opening statement should look like. But of course, your opening statement should have a structure. It should talk about the process. It should talk about the ground rules. It should talk about you know what your role is, a little bit about yourself. And if you can make a good opening statement around these few pointers, I think it can really help you out. It can really help you out as a mediator, and it can really help out the parties who you are mediating. So it works both ways in terms of the opening statement.
Perfect, perfect. I think these are the tips and tricks that will come in handy, indispensable tips and tricks, in fact, that any competitor can use. I think I found them extremely useful. Hopefully, I'm really waiting for more competitions so that we can try our hands on, so that I can deploy these trips, these various strategies that we have learned in this conversation. And they're extremely
Right.
useful. My final question to you obviously would be that negotiation mediation from a law school's perspective, uh, in a manner of instilling those strategies, those soft skills in the law students. How important is it for law students to be aware of these strategies, to have that knack for negotiation and mediation?
See, I have personally felt that if I had spent a little more time uh, learning about the mediation and negotiation during my undergrad degree, maybe I would have been a better negotiator or a better mediation, because at that point of time I did not know the value of preparation, right? At that point of time, it was just a vague idea in your mind that okay, this is a competition happening, let's just go for it. But once you get into this field, once you start pursuing it professionally, I think that's the time when you realize the importance of getting it right with the basics, right? And in a law school, you need someone to align you with those basics. You know, it may be in form of a course, it may be in form of an elective course, or something like that, where your professor or your teacher can tell you exactly how you can work well with these basics. And moreover, a lot of these societies are there where they are creating an environment where participants, where the students who are part of the society can also come up and discuss about these things, right? So it works both ways. It works both ways, right? There are the responsibility of a law school to provide you that platform, and then it is your responsibility to take it as far as possible as you can. So to learn
Right.
these process the workings of these processes, consensual dispute resolution processes like mediation and negotiation in a law school, that has a great impact in terms of you understanding a particular case at hand, how you look at a dispute. Because as I spoke about, if you know how to strategize or read a particular case for your client when you're negotiating, that goes a long way when you're actually reading or briefing a client, or you're reading a case file, you know. So these strategies, these sessions, time spent in these competitions where you are preparing on different outlooks to a particular case, or where you are understanding the confidential information, that has an impact in real life when you are out there thinking of where various points, where or various ways in which you can enhance your client's concern in the court, or maybe in a negotiation, right? So it all starts with the preparation for me. And law schools has a responsibility to provide that platform. right? Now, I think you must have seen yourself that so many law schools are talking about these processes. So many law schools have discussions around these processes, and that's a great thing to see, because in my fourth, fifth year, that was not the case, because that point, we were just starting out. This field was just opening up for students in India. So that if I look at it from that perspective, we have come a long way, but still there is so much as for us to learn, and I hope in coming few years we are able to create that platform for students around the country.
Absolutely. We do have come a long way. And I think, as you mentioned, there is so much more to learn and so much more to grow with. I think, as we all know, especially post pandemic, the market has become rather more competitive. It is becoming more and
Right.
more competitive with time. And these skills, obviously, are the soft skills that every law student would love to acquire. And what better way to learn it from someone who's experienced them over years and also has guided so many law students to victory. Thank you so much, sir, for this amazing, amazing conversation. Do you have any closing remarks for our listeners?
No, I will just say this, that see, everyone has a journey, right? Everyone has a way of going about things. There might be times when you're not able to understand what's happening around you, but just trust the process, right? When I was in my fourth, fifth year, I did not know what was the end game. As I said, it's the end game. What's the end game with regard to these competitions? But it all starts somewhere, right? So I believe if all the listeners, anyone who's listening to this podcast, then I just want to say this, that trust the process, you know believe in yourself and your journey. Believe in your journey, and you'll get to your goal eventually.
Absolutely. Perfect. I think believing in our journey and working hard enough in order to reach our goal is the mantra that every viewer of this podcast, especially for this podcast, and I take the liberty of saying this, would love to strive for and perhaps work hard for. So thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. I had a wonderful time. I hope you had a good time too, sir.
Thank you so much, Kaustubh, and please pass my regards to Shashwat as well. And
Absolutely.
I hope both of you look to participate in such competitions, and you have so much to learn ahead.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.